Alright, y'all. So today we're going to do Unit 4, Day 6. So reminders, make sure you have a history notebook out and you take notes as you move through the video. And make sure you take a vocabulary for this video. So let's go ahead and get started. So our terms for today are the Liberal Russian Revolution, Bolsheviks Revolution, Lenin, Red Army, Cheka, War Communism, the New Economic Policy or the NEP, Stalin, Trotsky, Five-Year Plan, Purges, Holocaust, Wannsee Conference, and the Holodomor. Concepts are causes for Russian revolutions and the effects of Russian revolutions. So let's kind of review our first Russian Revolution. This is going to be a reaction to World War One. These are people wanting kind of peace, land, and bread. Right? We have, this is the first one is called the Liberal Revolution. Right? This one is basically they want to get out of the war. Right? This is the soldiers and navy men mutinying and kind of rebelling against their monarchy and their army soldiers and army commanders and all of that. Right? And it really kind of pushes and kind of stops the monarchy. Now, our first gentleman is Alexander Kerensky. He establishes a parliamentary government again, because you remember Nicholas II established the Duma, but then just kind of ripped that away. But they established parliamentary government, but they don't end World War One. They don't end their involvement in World War One, which causes the liberal regime to, of course, lose support. And then we get the rise of the whites and the reds, right? So the whites are monarchists, right? Conservatives. They're trying to work against and reestablish the monarchy. And then, of course, you have the Soviets or the socialists, and they're going to, or the reds, and they're going to organize into paramilitary groups to counter this white opposition. Well, all of this kind of kerfuffle and back and forth leads to the Second Russian Revolution, this is the November Revolution in 1917. Right? And this is the Bolsheviks coming to power under Lenin, right? This is going to be communists, civil war, international politics. This is all of that coming together, right? And who comes in on top? Bolsheviks are the Reds. And what do? They withdraw Russia from World War One in the Brest-Litovsk Treaty, where they surrender giant parts of Western Russia, the Baltics, Finlands, all of that to the Germans. Now, the Allies are going to regard this new communist Bolshevik government as extremely dangerous because of how they came to power and their kind of ideology. And what happens? Well, a civil war immediately takes place, right? Whenever you take over a government forcefully, there's going to be people who don't like you. That leads to a civil war. Allies such as the UK, France, the United States even, Japan, and Poland are going to send weapons, supplies, and even soldiers into Russia to kind of support the whites and the greens to overthrow the Soviets. Now, remember, the whites support the monarchy. Now, the greens are more nationalists and not necessarily completely Russian, but they're also kind of going to fight against the Soviets for control. The Soviets win due to a few reasons. The Red Army is extremely efficient, the Cheka, secret police, Red Terror, and war communism, which we're all going to talk about here in a minute. So, who wins all of this? Well, the Reds win all of this. They win all of this through a lot of reasons, but let's start off with their institutions. So the Bolshevik Party, led by Vladimir Lenin, he's going to organize the groups into cells and bureaus to kind of fight and kind of rebel. The Red Guard turns into the Red Army. This is organized under Trotsky, right? And this is used to further spread the revolution. The Red Army is also going to be the one that's extremely efficient in fighting the whites or the White Army or the monarchists. Another reason why this is extremely successful is the Cheka, which is a secret police. Now, a secret police is one of those where it's a series of informants that are always relaying information back, so you can never tell who's in the secret police, and it's very much it's hard to get anything done when you're constantly being spied on. And this becomes the first police state. Also, war communism is another reason for the kind of success of the Red Army and the success of the Bolsheviks, is that the Soviets would forcefully requisition food and supplies to support the Red Army. Basically, they'd go into a place, take everything they needed, and just leave. There was no back and forth. It was just take it, go. Right? Well, all of this leads to the Reds, or the Bolsheviks, or the Soviets being on top. And they have their election. Right? Like, hey, we're going to have an election and set up a parliamentary, and life is going to be great. And we're back to doing, and then when that started leaning like kind of against the Reds and against the Soviets, Lenin was like, no. So he shuts down the Congress and he replaces it with a Congress of Soviets, only Soviets, right? And when he stabilizes, he enacts the New Economic Policy, or the NEP. Now, communism, they don't like capitalism, but Lenin realizes that, hey, we need a little bit of capitalism and a little bit of stuff to help our economy get back on track, so that we can collectivize and kind of be more communist. Well, under Lenin, they create the new Constitution of 1923, and this does a few things. This establishes the United Soviet Socialist Republics, or the USSR, and this allows universal suffrage, meaning that everyone can vote, but you can only vote for communists. So really, it doesn't really do anything. You can vote, yay, but only for communists. So it's a one-party system. So it's not really democracy, but you can vote though. That's the thing, you can vote. Right? Well, in all of this, there's still a power struggle. Right? And like most leaders, Lenin dies. Right? In 1924. And a power struggle ensues. Now, for most of Lenin's power, right, he's going to rely on Stalin, because Stalin was an extremely efficient and successful military and kind of leader. Right? But near the end of Lenin's life, he's going to prefer Trotsky. Right? And so when Lenin dies, Trotsky and Lenin kind of go back and forth. Stalin emerges as Lenin's successor. He's going to use divide and conquer to discredit Trotsky and to discredit anybody who runs against him. He's going to exile Trotsky until the mid-1930s, when he has him executed. But we don't talk about that. Right? And Stalin's going to focus on socialism in one country. Meaning he's not going to try to spread communism and socialism to other nations in Europe. He's going to focus on the USSR, right, to survive. Now, he realizes that industrialization is an extremely important part of a successful country in Europe and Asia, and he's going to forcibly industrialize by destroying the peasantry, right, and trying to make everyone kind of equal working. This is the 5-year plan. This is a plan to industrialize all of Russia in 5 years. And this is going to focus on heavy industry, arms, weaponry, tanks, things like that, things that are like really can push an economy forward. He's also going to start the collectivization of agriculture to free up labor and capital for industry. Collectivization is he's going to take all the land for farming. He's going to chop it up, and he's going to give it back to the people. Right? And kind of separate it out, collectivize it, and everyone gets an equal part. Now, still talking about this collectivization of agriculture, right? He's going to take these large-scale, big super state-run farms and replace them with little baby farms. Right? He's going to chop it up. He can chop it up, give it out. Right? Now, do you think the people are going to like that? No. So what does he do? He executes anybody who kind of stands against him. He's like, this is the true, you don't want to give us your farm? They just shoot you and take your farm anyway. Right? He's going to impose this by force. Now, to foster this industrialization, he's going to create a state planning commissions and, of course, the 5-year plans. Now, the government's going to pay for this infrastructure and industrialization. And again, it was heavy industry, not consumer production. Now, Stalin. Stalin's a little more little more socialist than Lenin was. He's going to repeal the NEP. He does not trust capitalism. He is very paranoid. He does not trust capitalism. He's paranoid. So he initiates the purges. This is where he's going to purge all opposition. Some of it was real. Some of it's a little imaginary. Right? But he's going to start massacring everybody he doesn't like or even has a thought against him. This is where the Cheka comes in, right? Secret police. Oh, he said something bad about Stalin. Well, he's now dead. Right? Things like that. This begins the reign of terror in the early 30s. Right? He's going to purge intellectuals and party officials. Some of them are executed. Most of them are executed. And some are sent to work prison camps in Siberia. This is going to be like a lot more like, hey, if we kill you, there's going to start a revolution. So you just go work in the camp. Right? This is going to be people like Trotsky, like Stalin's own son. And by the late 1930s, he's actually going to try to purge the Red Army. He's going to execute 60% of all officers above the rank of major who didn't support him or like had thoughts of rebellion or maybe mentioned something about not liking him. Dead. Right? And this is going to be a reason why the USSR really gets kind of run over at the beginning of World War II. So here's a picture of kind of propaganda to show who was being purged by Stalin's purges. Right? Now, this shows a picture of comparing the Russian Revolution to the Mexican Revolution. This is something that's really important, and this is something that this is going to be probably this is very much something that gets talked about a lot in terms of essay writing on the AP and MYP formats, right? Where it is, Mexico's revolution versus Russia's revolution. So make sure you know the difference and the similarities. Now, also during this time, we have the rise of mass genocides in the 20th century. Of course, the kind of staple that everyone kind of goes to is the Holocaust. This is going to be Nazi Germany, 6 million Jews killed, right? And they really try to become the most efficient at killing people, right? And it's really kind of this kind of push and kind of understanding that, this has to be kind of efficient if you want to kill the most amount of people, right? The Nazis even try to make it like a Ford-like system where it's like an assembly line of murder, right? They show up in the camp, right? Take their stuff, send them to the shower, dead, burn it. Next people, right? They try to make it very efficient, very harsh. And again, the Holocaust is one of those where it's like, okay, like this is efficient. This is like a targeted group of people. And that's really going to be where a lot of these Holocausts that we talk about this year come from, right? It's kind of these extreme genocides and kind of back and forth. Right. Another one is the Holodomor in the Ukraine. This is actually more of a man-made famine, still targeted, still very much targeted, but this is going to be the collectivization in Ukraine. Due to Stalin taking all of the land and dividing it up, it's going to create a famine from 1932 to 1933. And it's going to be 6 to 8 million died as a result of starvation. Now, Stalin could have stepped in to help them, but they were Ukrainian. So Stalin was like, they're just lazy, and they're just doing it to themselves. So he just let them starve. Even if them begging and pleading, they just let them starve. This picture on the right is actually from the Holodomor. It's not a Holocaust picture. This is starving children from the Holodomor. Some other examples for Holocaust that we're going to talk about: Rwanda, which is based off of skin color and ethnic minorities and ethnic majorities. We have Cambodia with the communists, the Pol Pot. Right, it's going to be just those. These are just going to be just massacres, bullets, gassing, all of that. So that's what I have for you today, y'all. So thank you. Make sure you take notes. Make sure you're doing the vocabulary, and I'll see you guys in class.